All right, welcome back. At this point, you should have some high performing headlines. So you're getting click through rates of over 1%, you're getting cost per click less than 50 cents. It's now time that we're going to take that content and we're going to start creating actual ads, real ads, ones that look nice instead of their ugly, terrible things from before. We're going to start looking at how do we create an ad that's going to drive some engagement or interaction. Now, this is going to really depend on where you are with your product or with your service development, because we're going to take some images and we're going to see which is going to draw the most attention. What we really want to do is start combining different images and different headlines so we can see which combinations are going to get us the best cost per click and the highest click through rate. Depending on your comfort with different design tools, you could use anything from Figma to Illustrator to Photoshop to I'm going to show you an example with Canva. The idea is that you want to create something that now starts to look like a real ad. I'm going to show you how we do this with the 1080 by 1080 ads, but creating some additional variation to fit the meta criteria, or if you're using Google or LinkedIn, make sure that you're building ads that fit their criteria. Everybody has their own sets of rules, but fundamentally the same kind of principles apply. You're trying to create something that's visually appealing. We know what language is working. And now we're going to move on to testing the design. If you have a product, especially a physical product, if you have renderings, you can show the whole product. You can show it in use. You could do something that a good friend of mine used to always say, you draw intrigue with a red circle. If you have something that is interesting and unique and differentiated in a market, sometimes showing a person using your object where it can't quite tell what it is and drawing a big red circle can actually draw a lot of attention and at least curiosity. It's incredible how well that works. But the big thing here is that we're now going to be trying to measure two different things. We do want to try and get the best, highest performing ads out there, for sure. But now what we've done is with pain points, we tested that there was a real problem. With headlines, we tested that people are looking for a solution. With the image ads, we are going to be testing the actual creative, what it looks like and how the ad feels and the language that's on it. But we're also going to start really validating that the ad's going to lead them to a page, the landing page, the website you've built, whatever it is, does that align with your customer expectations? Think of it as telling a complete story. We've started off with the pain, the headline, the solution, and now we're going to show them what that solution is. And if I land on that page and I leave right away, well, then my expectation wasn't met. Maybe you're selling a software solution and I was expecting a piece of hardware. Maybe you're selling a piece of hardware and I was expecting software. Maybe I was expecting a service. These are all things that are solvable, but this is where we start going through that testing process. So we're going to focus on the image ads for this lesson, but we're very quickly going to start moving into optimizing a landing page. And I'll talk a little bit about that through this process. I'm going to jump into Canva in a couple seconds, but what I'm going to start off by doing is describing a little bit more of like the kind of imagery that you might be looking for an image test. Now, depends a lot on whether or not you have a physical product or a digital product or how far you are in the product development process. If you have something tangible, great. There's definitely ways that we can leverage what you already have. And if you have never built anything, if you're just starting out, don't worry about it. What I'm doing, so I'm still focusing on my electric RV company. And as you can kind of see, I have a few concepts here of like images I might want to use. I'm trying to find aspirational ones. I'm talking about electric RVs. I'm going to have an existing trailer in the background with some friends or family hanging out around a campfire, some that are about nature. We talk a little bit about the environment. So we're going to use some clean environmental images through this, focusing on travel. So here's a trailer being towed. Here's one out near the mountains. And maybe some marshmallows because you're roasting marshmallows around a fire with your family. There's a bunch of different things that we can do. And if you have a product, you can actually use this to test different variations of your renders. So if you want to try different colors and you want to see which one drives the most attention, or you can create illustrations, you can modify these images either by doing extreme close-ups to show a specific part if you're not comfortable showing the whole product or you want to show a bit of intrigue, or even use things like cell phone images or laptop images or you can even go and find images of cell phones or laptops that have blank screens that you can overlay your content on top of. If you're struggling with finding them, we use Envato. I'll throw a link in below, but it's a tool where you can easily jump in and just type in phone and it'll do everything from stock video to photos. You could say no people. you could grab one of these images and overlay your own content in, or they actually even have some that have like blank screens that you can just leverage in order to just use these screens and pull some stuff into them. So all I did was I pulled a bunch of images from Envato, and that's the basis that I'm going to use. Okay, so I didn't want you to sit here and watch my entire design process. So I went ahead and started creating some initial mockups. All I did was I took those images, and now I'm using, let's say, my brand font. I'm going to start playing with how this text lays out. So for example, in this one, this text doesn't come out quite as strong as I want it to. So I might grab some additional shapes in here, and then I can just put this, oh, look at that. It's already under my. So if I had brand colors, I could do something like this, and then I might want to just play with where this text is laid out. I still have the image. I have strong messaging. And let's say one of my brand colors was red. I could throw that in there. You could tweak these in a variety of different ways. But one of the things that I really love to do is take one image and take two different headlines that are your higher performing headlines and overlay both of those onto the image in some way. Now, you can play with different style. You could do a bunch of different things, but what this will do is it'll tell you not only which headlines are still performing the best, but a set of images that work better than all the other ones because the headlines are going to be very similar. So in this case, I'm using these two headlines as my primary headlines, and I'm going to use it on a variety of different images just so I can get that contrast. And then this is one of those examples of that, red circle, or in this case, it's a giant red arrow. But the idea is that there's something. I took this illustration. I said, hey, there's something hidden under here. Tell the trailer you want with the truck you have with this amazing new product. It's all just structured so that I can kind of, again, see what kind of imagery is going to work the best with my audience. We're now at a point where we can add branding. It's something where you could try it with and without. You could do a lot of different comparisons. If you haven't even solidified what your branding is, it could even be an opportunity to test which branding is going to resonate the best. So I've just thrown a giant Snappy logo on there for fun. I think I have another one in here somewhere. So you could do all kinds of different things. You just focusing on making sure that this is going to lay out really well and look good. So you're going to grab images from Envato or whatever stock imagery you have, or you're going to take renders and be able to create those kind of products. Goal is to focus on creating an ad that keeps the same messaging. That's the most important part. Keep the messaging that works with your audience, and now start bringing in that feeling of this is a real thing. It's a real product. And use some things like aspirational imagery, product imagery, try variations and see which ones are going to resonate best. The goal for this is really about creating an ad that you're going to use in the later stages. Yes, we're going to do some initial testing to see how often people bounce or what that looks like when people click on these images and where they go. But it's also going to be an ad that you're going to reuse later when we are focusing on optimizing those landing pages. Now you have a set of ads. There's going to be some variation between them in terms of the background imagery that you're using, how you're overlaying content, what they look like, what styles you're using. And the idea is that we're going to run the same kind of test that we have in the past. So we're going to set up the same rules, 400 impressions per ad. We're going to make sure that we have ideally an even better cost per click and a better click-through rate. But we're also going to be able to see what style our audience resonates with, whether it's aspirational images, product imagery, or something in between. The goal here is to continue to test to make sure that we know what ads look professional, look good, and are going to draw our customers in. As an added bonus, we're going to get some of those initial metrics of whether or not our solution resonates with our audience. So when people click those ads and they land on your landing page, the thing that we're looking for is an engagement rate in Google Analytics. So do people actually stay on the page? How long do they stay on the page? Or do they get there and leave right away? We can use a combination of Microsoft Clarity and Google Analytics to get an indication of how our page is performing and whether or not people are interested in the product. Are they clicking the About Us page because they want to know that we're a real product and real brand, or they want to understand the story of what's behind it? All of these things are great things to learn and measure. Keep in mind that through this process, one of the things we can continually improve our landing pages and our homepage. Take the content that works well, that has gone over those metrics that we care about. Cost per click, under 50 cents, and click-through rate over 1%. And even if we don't use that final content in some of our ads, start peppering the page with that kind of content. Take a pain point that didn't quite make the cut, but performed really well in the early stages, and reword it so that it fits within the flow of your document. Again, this is about telling a story that's going to resonate with the audience and making sure that we're going to get that high level of engagement. So now that we have the ads all set up and ready to go, let's get that next test done and see what our results are.